All right, we're looking at section 3-5 today. The topic is solving rational equations. And so rational equations are equations that involve fractions. And so the strategy for solving them is multiplying each term in the equation by the least common denominator of all the terms. And what that will essentially do is get rid of your fractions and make it easier to solve. Okay, now another point of caution. Solving rational equations can produce extraneous solutions, so we got to check our answers. Okay, kind of just like when we were solving equations in the last unit, there were occasions that could produce extraneous solutions, and so the same thing is true here with rational equations. So let's get into an example. All right, let's say we wanted to solve this equation. And so the first thing that we want to do is multiply through by the least common denominator so that we can get rid of our fractions. Well, the least common denominator between 1 and x minus 8 is x minus 8. So I'll multiply all three terms here times x minus 8. So the first one will be x times x minus 8. All right. And in the next one, if I multiply through by x minus 8, it will cancel, right, and leave me with 6. And then x minus 8 times 0 is still 0. And so multiplying through by the least common denominator, how it helps us, it gets rid of the fraction in the equation. So it gets rid of all your fractions, and now we're in good shape. So I'll multiply x times x will be x squared minus 8x plus 6 is equal to 0. All right, so to go through and solve this one, we can attempt to solve it by factoring if you like. But if we go x and x, then I'm looking for two numbers to multiply together to give me 6, and that combine together to get 8. And so that's where we're going to have trouble. 6 and 1 won't add up to 8. 3 and 2 won't add up to 8. So it's not factorable in that sense. So what that means is we'll have to go back to the quadratic formula, and so that's fine. So we'll plug in. It'll be x equals. All right, so it's negative b. So my b is negative 8, so that'll be 8. And we've got plus or minus. Then I've got my square root. All right, and it's going to be b squared. And so that's going to be negative 8 squared, right, plus minus 4 ac, which is 1 times 6. And all of this is over 2 times a, which is 2 times 1. All right, so I've plugged into my quadratic formula. Now I just need to continue to solve it. And so this will be 8 plus or minus, got my square root. And so negative 8 squared will go 64 minus 6 times 4 is 24 over 2. All right, we can keep working inside the square root, underneath the square root. So that'll be x equals to 8 plus or minus square root of 64 minus 24. That's going to leave me with 40 over 2. And so now at this point we can work on simplifying underneath the radical. And so 40, let's see if we can break that down into its prime factors. That should be 40 is 10 times 4, which is 5 times 2 times 2 times 2. All right, and so I've got a pair of 2's that I can pull out of there. And so now I'll write it as x equals 8 plus or minus 2. Now 5 times 2 is still trapped underneath, and so that'll multiply back together to make 10. All this is over 2. Still simplifying here, x is equal to 8. Nope, not 8. I can go ahead and divide these out, both of these terms by 2. So 8 divided by 2, that's going to give me 4 plus or minus. 2's will cancel, so that's 4 plus or minus the square root of 10. And then so those are my two answers. And of course, those two are valid answers. Primarily what you're checking for as far as extraneous solutions are going to be solutions that make you divide by 0. So if we got an answer of 8, we would throw that out because 8 minus 8 is 0. So basically that's what you're checking for as far as extraneous solutions are concerned. All right, a couple more that we can try. let's say we have one like this, for example. And so the first thing that I want to do is I want to see what the least common denominator would be. All right, and so when we're going through and looking at this, okay, this one's got an x minus 2, this one's got an x minus 4. Now if we were to factor this, then it turns out that this actually factors, and let's see what it factors into, because that'll help us determine the least common denominator. So x, and let's see, so now it's going to be a minus and a minus, negative and negative make a positive and make it negative in the middle, and then so we've got 2 and 4. All right, so this factors into x minus 2 times x minus 4, which both of those happen to be parts of these denominators, and so that would be my least common denominator. That's what I could multiply the whole equation by and then make all the denominators cancel out. All right, so that's what I'll do. So I'll multiply the whole thing times, I'll multiply the entire equation by x minus 2 times x minus 4. Well, when I do that here to this first one, remember, that's what this factors into. So that would essentially cancel and leave me with 4 equals. All right, so which one cancels here? The x minus 2. And so this would be left with 3x times x minus 4. All right, and we've got a plus. X minus 4 would cancel here, and then so that would leave me with 2 and times x minus 2. All right, so again, that goes through and cancels out all of my fractions, multiplying through by the least common denominator, which makes the equation much easier to solve. All right. And so from here, also don't forget, remember, as long as you multiply both sides of the equation by the same thing, you're not changing it. Remember, that's why we're allowed to multiply through by the least common denominator. So like if I've got, if I've got 4 equals 2 plus 2, all right, well if I go through and I multiply both sides times 10, then I'm still equal, because 10 times 4 is 40. 2 plus 2 is 4 times 10 is still 40. All right, so we still have an equation when we do that. That's why we're able to multiply through by the least common denominator, get rid of all our fractions, and get down to this. All right, let's see what else we got here. So now I'll go 4 equals, we can go ahead and distribute this out, 3x squared minus 12x plus 2x minus 4. All right. So if I'm solving a quadratic, I want one side set equal to 0, so we'll go 0 equals. That's going to be 3x squared, and this is minus 10x. Now when this 4 comes over here and subtracts from the other negative 4 that's already there, that will make negative 8. And so now from here, we need to decide if this is factorable or if we need to incorporate the quadratic formula again. All right, let's see if we can factor it. So I could go 3x and x to multiply to get 3x squared. All right, so now the next thing I need to take a look at is I need to get a negative here. The only way I can do that is a positive times a negative, and I need them to combine together to get negative 10 in the middle. Now I can't put my plus and minus in yet because these are not the same. So if I put the negative here or here, it would affect it. So here's what I need to figure out. Two numbers to multiply together to get 8, but at the same time, when I combine this with this, when I multiply them together, then I need to make sure that that difference is negative 10. All right, so let's just start with, well, we could either go 8 times 1 or we can go 4 times 2. So with an 8 times 1, if I put my 8 here and my 1 here, that's 8 and 3. 8 and 3 is not going to combine together to get 10, so that's out. All right, so I got 2 and 4 that I'm trying to take a look at here now. And remember, it's the difference of the two. If I put my 4 here, that's 4x. 2 would make that 6. 4 and 6 could combine together to get 10. So if I make this 4 and I make this 6, let's see what happens. So if I put a, oh wait a minute, excuse me, not 6. If I make this 4 and make this 2, let's see if we can make that work. So that would be 4x. That would be 6. But what would they have to do to be negative 10? they would both have to be negative, and I've already said that my signs have got to be plus and minus. So they don't need to add together to get 10, they need to subtract to get 10. So what if I put my 2 here and I put my 4 here? Now I've got 2x and 12. Negative 12x plus 2x would be equal to negative 12. So that's what we want right there. All right. So just a little bit of work to make sure that our factoring is correct there. All right. So from here, zero product rule, 3x plus 2 equals 0, or x minus 4 equals 0. And so in either case, if I move that over and make that minus and divide by 3, x would be equal to negative 2 over 3. Or the other case would be that x is equal to 4. All right, now one of these I need to throw out, and the way we tell which one it is it's going to be the one that is forcing me to divide by 0, which is going to be my 4. 4 right there makes me divide by 0, so I'm going to throw that out. So the only valid answer to this equation is negative 2 over 3. All right, so there you go. Let's see. Next one. Let's try the next problem here. All right, so on this one, okay, let's see if we can factor this to see if there's common denominators here. And so when we factor this, we'll go x. All right, so let's see what we've got here. So it's a negative, right? So I need a positive times a negative. Since these are both x's, I can go ahead and write that in. And so I need two numbers to multiply together to get 18, but at the same time, the difference is 3. So if I go 3 here and 6 here, which is exactly what the other factor or the other denominators are, I'm in good shape. That's my least common denominator right there. So that's what I'm going to multiply the equation by in order to make all the fractions disappear. So when I multiply that times the first term, the x plus 3 disappears, and it's going to leave me with 2x times x minus 6, all right, plus. When I multiply the second term, the x minus 6 disappears, which leaves me with 3 times x plus 3. We close that off, equals. And when I multiply this times the third term on the other side, that whole thing's going to cancel, because remember, this factors into this. So both of those would cancel out and leave me with 27. So once again, when you multiply through by the LCD, all your fractions will disappear and it becomes much easier. So now I'm going to go ahead and use the distributive property here. So that's going to be 2x squared minus 12x plus 3x plus 9 equals to 27. I can move the 27 over to the other side and subtract it from that positive 9, and that would give me 2x squared minus 12x, and then, oh, wait a minute, what did I do? I need to combine those together, don't I? I don't need to just leave it like that. Let's put those together and make a negative 9 right there. That would be better. Alright, so we'll do that. And then 9 minus 27, I believe, is negative 18. Set that equal to 0. And so let's start by seeing if it factors. If it doesn't, we'll go to the quadratic formula. So I'm going to put a 2x here and an x here to multiply together to get 2x squared. Now, I need two numbers that's going to multiply together to give me negative 18, right? But at the same time, they're going to combine together, this times this, combined with this times this, to give me a negative 9 in the middle. All right, so now, when I'm looking at this, right, in order to get a negative here, I've got to be a positive and a negative. So that means the difference of these two should be negative 9. All right, so let's think. If I wanted to multiply through to get 18, I could go 6 times 2. So if I put 6 here and 2 here, then that's going to be 4 and 6. That does not subtract to 9. What if I put my 6 here and my, excuse me, did I say that wrong? No, it should be 9 times 2. Let's go 9 times 2 here. So that'll be 9, and 2 is 4. Still won't subtract to make negative 9. What if I put my 9 here, 18, and I put my 2 here? 18 minus 2 is 16. Still doesn't work. So let's go 6 and 3. If I put my 6 here, my 3 here, 3 times 2 is 6. Difference, no. But what about if I put my 3 here and my 6 here? And go plus and go minus. That's 3x minus 12x. And then, of course, that would give me negative 9 in the middle. And then, so that's the factorization that I want. So now to finish it, I can go zero product rule, 2x plus 3 equals 0. Move the 3 over, negative 3 divided by 2, so that's negative 3 over 2. And if I solve this one, set this one, x minus 6 equals 0, then that means the x equals to 6. However, one of these we are not going to be able to use, and it's the 6, because if I put 6 here, I would be dividing by 0. It's an extraneous solution. The only correct answer is -3/2. All right, so there you go. And so those are some examples of how to solve the rational equations. You will take what you learned now and use that to complete your quiz.